Good evening, NorCal Carters. It is November 20th, and it's a weird year. I keep saying it. Everything has flown by. The middle part of the year is a little bit stagnant, but here we are, November 20th. And tonight, it's Friday. I usually do these on a Monday, but I got a little bit sidetracked this week. And tonight, our special guest is Andy Seesemann. How are you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on tonight. And again, thank you for supporting NorCal Carters.
Oh, absolutely. It's we're a small community, as you know, and it's good to support grassroots organizations like yourself. None of us can afford Super Bowl commercials, so we spread our budgets out, and I'd rather have it be spent everywhere I can on local or regional programs like yourself that we can get our message out.
You know what? If you could sponsor Shakira, I would gladly donate the funds towards that.
I'll just be a wardrobe coordinator. I'm good with that.
There you go. So thank you for joining us. Actually, let me run down some quick events real quick. So tonight, I'm going to just blast through the events that are coming up in NorCal Carters calendar. So those that are listening, you can go to norcalcarters.com, click on the calendar link. This weekend, there's a race at Prairie City. So
yep, get him, Durbin.
Go get him. Oh, man, Durbin. I was actually out there on Tuesday, and they have done so much with that track as far as everything that you talk about. Oh, the track needs this, the track needs that. Outside of having a restaurant on site, they've pretty much checked all the boxes. They have bathrooms with running water. They have the pro shop at the track. They have their own shop down there in Rancho Cordova.
Right.
They installed these camera systems so you could see every single corner of the track. Have you been to Prairie City?
I was there, probably almost 2 years ago.
Okay. So you're familiar with it?
And I'd never been. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I mean, I had never been. Being a SoCal guy, I've never been to Dixon. I've never been to Davis. I had never been to Prairie City. So there's, 3 solid NorCal tracks I'd never been to. And I went and checked out Prairie City, and it's a nice place. I know it's a bit of a difficult situation to run a business with the state restrictions and the profit sharing and all that. But that's a crazy deal. But man, all power to Donald Jr. and Donald Sr. for taking the risk and taking over that lease and trying to make that place something better. It's awesome. Obviously it's changed hands several times from, who was it, Jerry Aaron's way back in the day, and the Hands and the Emmicks and there's so many legendary names in NorCal karting that have run that place, McAllister's and Keys. I know Donald and his dad, we go back many, many, many years, almost 20 years. And I'm big fans of theirs. And, I just hope that they can, find a way to make that program work for them. And it's important for that area to have that place rolling.
Yeah. And it was just so nice to be out there. We were out there again. It was yesterday. So it was a Thursday. They had a number of rental carts going on the track. They had a handful of, not pro racers, but whatever we call ourselves, the guys with real go-kart, racing carts. And it was just cool. I finally actually started using the camera system they had installed. It's under the grid, so you can watch this huge screen, and you can see all the corners. So my dad's out on the track driving around, and my uncle came up to check it out and say, "Oh, what's this all about?" And I go, "Hey, let's go watch the TV, and we can see my dad, because as you know, you've been there. You can see the straightaway, turn 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
You go over that little hump into turn 4. You make the right-hander, and then they disappear until they come up over the hill.
Then they vanish. Yep. Then they vanish.
Yeah. So you got like 17 seconds of what's going on.
Right.
And if you're a junior dad, did my kid make it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So we have, Prairie City this weekend. So if you go on Facebook to check out their website or their Facebook page, they have a modified racing calendar. They had to split up the groups to basically be in compliance with COVID. So go check them out. And then that was it for this weekend. Then we have Thanksgiving next Thursday.
Right.
And let's see, Northern Nevada Kart Club. They were a sponsor this year. They had their awards banquet on December 5th.
And I went there for the first time in 20 years since the Promoter Wood Tour was there, maybe in 98 or 99.
Yeah.
I went there right when COVID hit, like April, a month after COVID hit. I started, because as California was locked down and some of the surrounding states were a little looser in their restrictions, I'm like, man, I got to check some of these tracks out that I hadn't been to in many years. And I met with a couple of the board members up there, and they showed me around. And man, another solid club, regional track that can support our sport, that the local program really pours money into and pours their heart into to keep the place open. So, like I said, I hadn't been there in many years, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was still rolling and still looked good. I mean, it's another track, like, I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. There are some tracks that can hold national events and some that can't. I mean, obviously some of these places can't just because of size and track width and amenities, etc. But Reno, I mean, that could hold a nice regional program, which local and regional programs are the heart of our sport.
Yeah.
And it's great to go to these places and still see them be able to survive. I wish we could say thrive, but right now that's not the case. But at least they're surviving. And I go back to what you talk about, the schedule with Prairie City and local folks really have to understand that these tracks are under such restrictions. I mean, when the Durbans had to split up their program, to be able to get it done because of COVID restrictions, what you don't understand is it doubles their costs for the event, right? Because it's 2 days of ambulances and 2 days of corner workers and 2 days of race directors and 2 days of not making income from the rental cars.
Yeah.
So
and half the entry fees because you cut them in half.
Half the entries. So on a normal club race where a club's going to make, $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever they make to be able to pay to the prize fund or whatever. Now you've just cut that away. I mean, now they're just hoping to break even. So please, if you're a local racer and your club's doing whatever they can to survive and scrape out these races, please go support them. Go with an open mind and know that they're doing everything they can just to keep their doors open and to keep a place for us racers to go race.
Yeah, and that's a very valid point, that you definitely bring that perspective because you are a race promoter. And, for someone like me,
I understand the left side of the page when the left side is the cost side, the right side is the income side, right? So I certainly understand the left side.
Yes. Yeah. And for me, I mean, quite honestly, for many years, I was just a princess. It's like my boss would say, oh, you're going there, or you're going there, you're going there. And I was on the clock. I just showed up and I did my job. I got paid. But having someone like you, going, okay, I need X amount of entries just to break even. I love that insight because that's a great point. It's like these tracks are trying to figure it out, and
every track's different. Every track's different, right? You go to a place, you put on a race at a place like Cal Speed or Sonoma with a big corporate structure over your head, and their ambulances they're costly, and all the hoops you got to jump through. Man, maybe the break even there is 100 or 105, right? And then you go to a smaller place, a Button Willow or whatever, and you can get the entry down. You get the break even down in the 70s or 80s, but the experience isn't quite the same, right? So it's all trade-offs. I mean, You can't say we're going to go to Willow or Button Willow or or some of these other places, or Dixon or Davis, where the costs are less, because people still want to go to the Sonomas and the Cal Speeds and the Tucsons and the Millers and the all these places, right? So we just hope when we put races on at these more expensive venues, the trade-off is we're going to get more people, and that's why I always have a race at Cal Speed or two or as many as I can, right? Because Cal Speed's worth 30 entries in my program, always, right?
As far
But
as
those
just
30
right on
entries,
top, you get 30 entries.
right on top,
Okay.
But when you're talking about the break even goes from 80 to 105, you need 25 more just to keep the break even the same, right?
Yeah.
So and that's what do we say, that those are first world problems, right? I mean, that's my problem. That's not the racer's problem. That's my problem to figure out. But it's certainly when you're a racer and you race places, don't get mad when, oh, well, that guy goes here because of this, or that guy goes here because of that, or X club charges this or X club charges that. You just don't know what that left side of the paper means to them. You don't know the hidden costs or the extra fees they got to put up with for doing business at that particular facility.
No, and that's another very valid point. I mean, it's just, as a racer, we just show up and we pay X amount, and maybe that whole online buyer has kind of affected our sport. Not even from the kart shop standpoint, but just from, well, I could go race at local kart club for $45, but I go to a better CIK level track and now it's $150. It's like, well, why is it so much more? And that's a valid point. It's like, it just costs more.
It costs more. And over the years, over the last 20 years, the customers demanded more. I mean, I first started racing in the early 80s, right? So I can remember even to the late 90s, where if you were a Tri-C racer, you had to do a day's volunteering as a corner worker, and you would get race points for that weekend, right? Nowadays, that doesn't exist at the club level, right? We want paid corner workers. We want paid race. The race director was a volunteer. He was an old racer's dad that the kid stopped racing, but this is still his passion, so he came out. Now you got to pay your race director $200, $300, $400, $500 a day to put up with all the garbage they hear.
Yeah.
And the racers demanded that, and that's fine. They demanded a more professional experience, but with that, there's some cost. There just has to be. Right? Is it any better? Is it any worse? I can't comment. I mean, we all can play the nostalgia back in my day game, but in the end, that's what the market currently demands. So that's what we have to provide.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. And kind of going back to what you had said earlier about the different tracks and stuff, and you said not to be disparaging, but I mean, a lot of these tracks were built in the 70s and the 80s. And the technology and the equipment of karting has surpassed the track. It's not that the track is just a bad track. It's just, no, the technology that we demanded as racers surpassed our facilities.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Let's see. Give me 1 second here. Someone's chiming in. Hey, Steve, can you hear us out there? He's saying there's no audio, but I have audio on my end. Let's see here. Give me 1 moment. Let's see if he chimes back in. Okay, but I'll get on the calendar. So again, NorCalCarters.com, the calendar this weekend, Prairie City. Like Andy said, go support him. Next week, Thursday, November 26th, Thanksgiving. Let's see. Then we were talking about Reno. They have their awards banquet, Northern Nevada Kart Club. So nnkcreno.com, their awards banquet is on December 5th. And Rock Sonoma, one of your co-promoters, they were having an awards banquet on December 5th. They have moved it out to December 12th. So if you click on the calendar, you can have more information on their awards banquet as well. It got moved to December 12th. And that's it for 2020. As far as on my calendar, if I'm missing your event, let me know. But that's it. Then we have Christmas, we have New Year's Eve, and then we roll into why we have Andy on tonight. Outside of, you're always fun to talk to, but I mean, you kick off 2021 on January 22nd.
Yep. Oh yeah. And this year, where we we traditionally like to start in Arizona if we can, just because of the weather, right? We always like to chase the dry weather if we can.
Yep.
And we know Arizona's always going to have a little better percentage of possibility being dry than Southern California. But this year, when we produced the schedule, everybody's moving all their races around, right? IndyCar, NASCAR, F1, everybody, and NASCAR dropped their Cal Speed or their AAA Speedway event right on top of the date that we had cut out for Cal Speed in February. So, once you create these dates, I mean, it's hard, right? We have our Rock winter tour going on in Florida. There's the other competing winter tour that goes on in Florida. So you automatically lose a couple weekends there. The first weekend of February is Super Bowl weekend, so there's basically only a couple weekends to ever choose from. So I've been on the fourth weekend of the month pretty much every year of my existence. I mean, once or twice I've had to creep into April because like Easter falls on the fourth weekend of March.
Yeah.
But if I can, I've been the fourth weekend of the month of January, February, and March for probably 12 of the 14 years of existence of the Challenge of the Americas. And like I said, once NASCAR released their schedule, I had to flip flop Phoenix and Cal Speed. So I'm starting at Cal Speed at the end of January, and then going back east to Phoenix at the end of February before heading up the coast to go to Sonoma in March. But I don't think it'll be a bad thing because, like I said, that Cal Speed date's always worth 30 entries, 25, 30 entries. So, and if a bunch of those people do really well, maybe we can get them to go to Phoenix where they may not have shown up if the calendar was reversed.
Yeah, no, it's let's see here. So I zipped ahead of you too fast here. So we have January 22nd through 24th. We have Fontana, correct?
Yep. Correct.
And then we shoot over to February 26th through the 28th.
Correct.
In Phoenix.
And then March 26th, 28th at Sonoma. So
March
once again,
26th
the
28th
fourth weekend of each month. Super simple.
Yep. And then we were talking earlier about for those who don't know, Andy for years he's been Challenge of the Americas. For us old people, it was Gators with the road tax program.
That's right. Good old Gators.
Good old Gators.
Sunglasses that I still wear to this day because I got so many sponsored glasses over the years. I got a pile of 15 of them up on the shelf. So whenever my glasses wear out, I just grab a new pair.
the Gator series. I was never big into the road tax stuff, but I always knew Gators was our West Coast winter tour. That was it.
Yeah, for sure. And that was hard when that sponsorship ended. I tried to explain to the owner, Carrie Lynch. I said, Carrie, you don't understand. People know it's not called the Rotax Challenge of the Americas. People know the series as Gators. Like there is no better name recognition. Like you couldn't, for what they were paying me to have that sponsorship, their value was 10 times that, right? I mean, can you imagine just something being called Pepsi, right? It's not called the Super Bowl. It's just called Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't know what Gators are outside of karting. I know Gators is a series, and I know it's a sunglass, and I only know that because of karting.
Right.
I mean, so you're absolutely right about the reach and the branding on that. It's like, no, it's Gators.
The only other advertising that Gators had that kind of reach. I mean, and they, they supported Joey Hand, and they supported Marco Andretti and but I guarantee they got more brand exposure from our karting program than they ever got from having a pair of sunglasses on Marco Andretti's face. So let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the only other person that gave any kind of reach with Gators that we provided was Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri on his Diners, Drivers, and Dives used to wear Gators. They made some custom ones for Guy.
Really?
Yep. Yeah,
wow.
And I almost had him coming out to one or two of our events at Sonoma, but like the schedules never worked. He was either filming somewhere or doing something else. He could just never make it because he's from there, right? He's from Santa Rosa or Roanoke Park or one of those places.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the earlier episodes to the middle episodes, he always had some custom Gators on.
Yeah. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Go back and look. Go back and look on the Food Network. By the way, it's Friday night, so channel 231 on DirecTV right now. It's Food Network and Diners, Drive-In Event. They better pay me some money just for that plug, man. That plug is worth millions.
I can't take credit for that one because I don't have cable. So you nailed it.
You don't have cable? Oh my God.
I don't. No. The only time I ever watch Triple D is when I'm traveling in a hotel. That's it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Big Rich from the Track Magic days. He has Gorilla
I know.
Barbecue.
Gorilla Barbecue.
Yeah, out there in
buddy.
Pacifica. He texts me. He's like, "Dude, I'm gonna be on Triple D again." And I felt like I was breaking his heart because I texted him. I was like, I don't have cable. Can I find it on the internet?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so you wrap up the Challenge of the Americas, your winter series at Sonoma, and that's going to be in March on the 26th through the 28th. And so from my understanding, you have Challenge of the Americas. That's your regional hardcore winter series. And then last year,
regional. It's more national. It's international at some point. I mean, we've the guys that have won over the years. I mean, David Serra's come and raced with us many times because he was affiliated with. He's an Aero guy, and I carried Aero for a long time. So Serra raced with us several times. We had a great time. Felipe Fraga, who's a Brazilian driver, won our championship. Nicholas Latifi, who's currently a Williams driver, he won our DD2 championship many years ago. We have so many great Canadians and a few South Americans. So it's Challenge is more than a regional program. It is a national level program. It's kind of always been in the shadow, I'd say, of the Winter Tour just because of the publicity the Winter Tour gets, but it's just as competitive. It is absolutely just as competitive to try to win one of my races than it is to win out there in Florida. We just have a lot less Spanish speakers, which I'd love to have. I'd love to get, some of the folks from Mexico and South America to come try the West Coast for once, because I think the tracks are better, and I think they'd really have a really, really good time. But yeah, the Challenge is more than a regional program for sure.
That's true. It's not fair of me to call it regional. I'm thinking too myopic when it's NorCal Carters. It's like, hey, here's Andy. He goes all over the place. Let's call him regional.
Yeah, that's okay. I got to have a little ego about this, but the program is the program. I mean, we've built it from nothing to the guys and gals that have raced our program. There's a list of national, international level, American and Canadian, etc. Carters. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that for sure.
No, and you absolutely should be. So in that context, so we'll segue a little bit because we have the Challenge of the Americas. That's our West Coast program. That's the big dog. And then we have, your CRC.
The anchor. It's the anchor of rock racing on the West Coast,
doing,
right?
Yes.
It's certainly the anchor. I mean, there's club programs. There's Rock Sonoma, and we've made a little headway with Tri-C, and there's Tri-City Carters up in Washington that's added some rock, and there's UMC in Utah that's added some rock. So we have, but Challenge is for sure the anchor of rock racing in the West.
Yeah, so if you're west of the Rockies and you want to race in the winter, they show up at your series.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you started it 2 years ago, but I can't remember it happened a couple of years ago. I know you had some scheduling stuff come up, but last year was like your real full run with the CRC stuff, which is, we'll call that one the regional, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so
and that one, I mean, you still go up and down the West Coast, but it's not quite as intense as a Challenge. Is that fair?
Not quite, and that's fair. I want it to be where the club racer can come and have a little bit more. I say the word professional, but it's have a little bigger racing experience. when I say professional, I say that simply because in terms of my staff and the way we run events, I mean, I use the exact same staff that, I use for my Challenge of the Americas. I mean, our tech staff is the national rock tech staff. Our race director staff, I mean, my assistant race director is an assistant national steward at Rock the Rio, right? So, my guy that runs the grid is Guy Kesey, who runs the grid at Rock the Rio. So, and, 15 years guys worked for me. He used to be my race director, and now as he gets older, he just wants to hang out and wear his flip-flops and work the grid. So, which is fine. It's good to have him. So, I mean, it's nice to have an old race director just be your grid guy, hanging out and smiling at people and high-fiving, right? And so the staff that we use at our CRC races, I mean, Shelby Jocelyn's my scorer. There's no better scoring person in the country. So, when I say it's a professional experience, I just mean by the staff. It's the same type of staff, right? But yeah, the challenge is a little more serious. I mean, the challenge, a lot of teams show up on the Tuesday and move in or whatever, and a couple guys get on track Wednesday. Pretty much 80% of the field is on the track Thursday, and then I kind of take over Friday and run the organized practice and race Saturday and race Sunday. The CRC is a bit lighter for the most part. This year is going to be slightly different, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for the most part, it's a Saturday practice, and at the very last session of the day, we qualify, and then we race on Sunday, and we go home. So, you don't have to be there for 3 or 4 days. You can roll in Friday night, get 2 solid days in. I mean, you're going to get, 45 minutes of practice spread out on Saturday plus qualifying, and then some heats in the main on Sunday. So you're going to get plenty of track time. Obviously some of the teams like to move in a little early, maybe squeeze some people on the track Friday. That's their business. But yeah, it is a little bit lighter of a program, I guess is the best word, than challenge. Is that what you're the point you're trying to make?
Slightly. I mean, honestly, I didn't see the difference between the two as far as the level of drivers, the level of the organization you brought to the track, except for it was a day shorter. That's the only thing that I had personally noticed. Because you kind of had the same people. I mean, you still had the big team showing up at both of them.
Yeah, Gary was there, and Ron was there, and, Formula Works was there, and Ruthless was there, and, I think Vemi was there at 1 or 2, and, so it was the same general teams for sure. Everything was a little lighter. We didn't get crazy about the tire scanning and the, ripping engines down to the crankshaft. And, you don't want to, when you get a blend, it's the regional level is actually the hardest level, I think, to officiate or to organize, because you get a blend. You get guys that from the national level that are used to having their, used to cameras on track and having their engines torn to the crank after every event, and 15 corner workers in every corner, right? And then you get guys that are coming up that are used to the club, which has 1 race director, 1 flagman, 3 corner workers, a tech guy that's he's just doing tech at the club, so he does some CCs, checks some fuel, checks some weight, we'll check the reads in the carburetor, and we'll move on, right?
Yeah.
So the regional levels really the hardest level to balance as a promoter, because you want to give everybody the right experience. You don't want to shortchange tech. You don't want to shortchange the rules, but you also don't want to scare away the club racer that's coming up and trying this for the first time. You don't want to punch him in the face with all the crazy stuff we do at the national level. I mean, you've been around it forever, right? I mean, to take a club level guy and put him at the national level, and he's like, "Whoa, I got to go stand here. I got to wait here for 10 minutes. I got to show this card. I got to fill out this paperwork. What? I just want to race a go-kart,
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point, because you have, for guys like you and me that have been around for so long, I hate to say it.
You don't have to say I'm old. You don't have to say I'm old.
You're experienced. But for us, we've been around it for so long at a certain level, it's like, yeah, you can't do that. You can't do this. And then over the past few years, I've been doing a lot more local stuff and engaging with people on Facebook that are just new into the sport. They're not blatant cheaters. They just have no clue. They just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's unfortunate they show up to some events and it's like you just said, they're blown out of the water because it's the series doesn't know that they don't know that this new person doesn't know anything. and honestly,
Right.
it's really not the series' job anyhow to bring that person up to speed. You just want them as a repeat customer.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get these people to stay in the sport, have a good
Yep.
time, and hopefully they do, and when but that's the important part of being a tech director, and I know you're hearing what's going on here,
You
and
mixing a
being a
drink?
race director. What are you talking about? And then and the race director giving a good driver's meeting. You want to educate everybody beforehand so you don't have problems at the end. When you take a guy who has never raced beyond his club and has come to this regional event to try it out and puts it on the podium because he's damn good. He's just never raced beyond his own track. And then, we take away that podium result because he had the wrong color filter in his airbox. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Do we really have to do this? Come on.
Yeah, but then as you know, you have the flip side where, the guy that is experienced that dynoed every color filter and that different colored one was better.
Yeah, I know. So it's like I said, the regional level is really the hardest.
Yeah.
The
That's
hardest
good insight.
piece
That's really good insight.
to officiate. But to go back, let's back up. But back up, yes, I started CRC 2 years ago. And is that what you want to talk about? Because I like to talk about it.
Yeah, well, no, let's talk. Yeah, because we talked about challenge. Let's talk about. Now, I don't have CRC on my calendar, so I'm going to forewarn you. I haven't seen the race dates yet.
That's right. We'll bust it out here. We'll release them here. I did send a letter out to sponsors, to teams and sponsors just this week, so the information is out there.
Okay.
So you don't have the scoop, but it's certainly the first kind of public release of the information. As I told you, I have a couple more podcasts to do over the next couple of weeks between e-karting news and the guys at Cal Speed. So there's going to be a lot of this that's going to be repetitive, over the time. But
I'm your warm up, right?
Yeah, somebody's got to be the warm up.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, I started CRC 2 years ago because it was time, right? So 2018. We dropped rock into the West Coast. Challenge of the Americas started with 70 at the first race. By the end, there was I think we had 90 at the last race or something, right? So it's okay, good first year. Second year was 19. We kind of started at 80 and got it a little over 100, but there was a need. Okay, we need something regional, something like I said, in the middle. Not quite as serious as challenge, maybe a little more serious than the club. People asked for it, but the funny part about our sport, and maybe it's human nature, but people ask for stuff before they're ready to commit to it. I mean, so many times as promoters or shop owners or business owners, if you guys just did this, we would do this. So then, we rolled out the the CRC, and all of a sudden it was like, I don't have the customers for that yet. Well, wait a minute. You told me 4 months ago that we needed this program. Oh yeah. Well, I just meant kind of in theory.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? We're go-kart racers. I mean, there's no theory. Either you do or you don't.
Yeah.
So at our first race in Buttonwillow in May of 19, the very first CRC race, we had 27 entries, and it's like, man, talk about a way to lose your ass in a quick second, right? Have 27 entries at a race.
Yeah.
And God bless him. We had, Formula Works was there, and Gary Carlton came, and Glenn and Christina Rocky were there, and Mike Manning came, right? So, we had some great racers. There just was about a third or a fourth of what we needed,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's do this, and that year I actually did have that was the year I had Prairie City on the calendar. And The second race I went to Willow. And man, I had 28 entries. I was like, wow, okay, maybe people aren't ready for this. And holy cow, but Glenn and Gary and Formula Works, Tony from Formula Works and Mike Manning, they're like, man, we like this program. We like the way you run. We need it. We need it. I'm like, yeah, well, I need you to bring 3 times as many people as you just brought. That's great. You brought 4. I need you to each bring 12, please. Because I can't lose $10,000 a weekend to have these races, right? And some things went down. I can't remember why, but I ended up having to cancel the Prairie City round. I think the Keys had just sold their interest or whatever, and it just wasn't going to work.
But wasn't it in August or something like that as well?
It was July, I think.
It was going to be it was probably going to be 140 degrees.
Yeah, well, what else is new, right? And so then the final one, Calvin Chen with his FKC program, which was a good little program that ran here for a little bit. He kind of needed a place, and I was like, tell you what, let's just combine for this last CRC/FKC, which is a lot of initials, and let's just do it. We had a dugout at Cal Speed, so we did it. And we had like 70 carts, so at least it got close to breaking even. It was tough, but it was close. So I look back at the end of the year, and the teams were like, man, yes, I want to do this again. We need to do this again. I'm like, yeah, but I can't do it and lose $25,000. I mean, that's all great. I mean, putting on races is great, but this is a business. It's not a charity, or there's no, I think John Marchione said it best. He says, there's no cross in the top of my building. This isn't a church. And do you remember John from JM?
I do. I've only met him a few times, but I definitely remember him.
So he would say the same thing when people would ask him for money or whatever. He says, no, let's go look at my building. This is a business. This is not a church. There's no cross on top. So, which is hilarious, by the way. But yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to suck it up again. Let's see what we can do. And then COVID hit. And I'm like, oh my God. Right. So I had redone the schedule where I was going to do 2 combined races with Sonoma.
Yeah.
I was going to open up Buttonwillow. And then I had another one, I think at Willow, I can't remember what it was, in August. And it wasn't Willow, it was Santa Maria actually. And Santa Maria was very gracious. Opening a date for me, and then COVID hit, and then obviously the 3rd challenge race got shut down, and then we pushed that challenge race date to the May CRC date at Sonoma just to see if we could pull it off, and then it got shut down again.
I remember that, yeah.
So then Arizona was looking good, so I ran out to Arizona in mid-May and went to one of the club races. Just took a customer, threw an engine on a cart, went to and raced their race. And watched the way they did it, and they said, "Oh yeah, no. If we follow these rules, this is the procedures. Here's our written procedures. We're allowed to have X many people here." I'm like, "Oh man, hey, what about this date? Can we do it?" And it was Father's Day weekend this year, and they're like, "Yeah, we can do it." I'm like, well, let's take a shot. I mean, let's just take a shot, right? And there hadn't been much racing. There hadn't been any racing really in California, so I threw it out there. And we did a Friday night, Saturday night deal because it was Father's Day weekend. So we did a practice on Friday from 3 to 10 at night, qualified that night, ran again from 3 or 4 till 10 at night. Crazy thing, the fuses blew for the lights. The lights went out for an hour. I mean, it was great, typical crazy go-kart story. But bottom line is 105 racers showed up. And I went, oh, okay, that's better than 27.
Yeah, and I think you were like the first outside of their club race. You were the first promoter from California to get a race under your belt, weren't you? During COVID?
Yeah, we had. There was actually one at Willow the weekend before ours. There was a PKC race before ours.
Oh God, okay.
But people came to both, and we crushed it. I mean, 105 people showed up. I was like, oh man, okay, all right. So then we went in July. We held Tight Tour July, which was supposed to be a combined event with Rock Sonoma. And Steve's been a great partner with the CRC because we have so many teams and racers that race both. So it made sense, especially in the second year of the program. And I mean, to be brutally honest, after losing $25,000 the first year and having a COVID year, I wasn't looking forward to lose another 25. So to have two races that were combined were great because there was minimal exposure for me. But it added, 30 or 40 entries to Steve's program. It got his program to 100. And, so all of a sudden, second race was under our belt. We had 100 again. Like, okay. Third race, we moved it. Cal Speed had a date come open, and that was August. And they said, well, I said, can you fit me in? He said, yeah, we have a date because there was supposed to be some concert or something there, right? That got canceled. So Santa Maria was gracious enough to let me cancel, which I apologize to them. But once again, Cal Speed's worth, that 20, 25 entries that we talk about. And we had about 70 at Cal Speed. Now, to be fair, it was the same exact weekend as the Pro Tour in Newcastle. So there were a few teams missing. So, but to get 70 local drivers, regional drivers at a race at Cal Speed in August up against the Pro Tour was a huge win. I mean, I think Formula Works and Gary Carlton brought 24 entries between them. Ron White had some, so it was awesome. It was unbelievable. And then we closed out with another almost 100 drivers at Sonoma. So to average almost 100 drivers in the second year of a program that started with 27, and I know I'm rambling, but it's what I do.
Well, and then to highlight the Sonoma one real quick, my memory sucks, but wasn't that the fire weekend?
Yeah. No, perfect.
Yeah. So you broke 100, but for those that don't know, Northern California is pretty much shut down because of smoke. Not COVID, smoke. Everything was shutting down.
And Steve, when we do the combined programs up there, we may bring him another assistant race director or an admin person, but that's Steve's program. I mean, he's running it. We bring the tires and the part support, and I'll do the points for our program. But it's a Rock Sonoma event. Steve puts it on with his staff. It's a very qualified staff, and we didn't know. Remember, Friday practice was shut down because of air quality.
That's right. Yeah.
We didn't know if we were going to even run that weekend until they let us know at 5:00 in the morning, Saturday morning, if we were going to be able to run the show.
And that was a week before Rock Cup USA was rolling into town. And
correct.
Garrett, I think, just walked around green all weekend. It's like, what am I going to do?
Because he had a big risk. He had a big financial risk on the line, right?
Yeah, and he already had had a crew on the way and trucks on the road. Yeah. And we didn't even know if we were going to be able to race.
Right. And that's, and I'm not playing a violin for any of us that work in this business, but when these events get shut down, like, we've paid for plane tickets, we've paid for the truck to drive, like, all our stuff is on the way. It's either there or it's on the way. That semi trailer full of tires and that, all the supplies, like, we paid that money. I mean, races canceling. I mean, my challenge race canceled 3 weeks before it was supposed to run, and it still cost a fair amount of money. If Garrett's would have canceled within a week before, that would have been a $50,000 loss with the money that he already spent.
Yeah.
Because the tracks don't want to give you your money back. I mean, I still have deposits at 2 tracks from the past couple of years, like, that are sitting there, right? They're not giving me my few grand back.
No,
they're like, well,
because
the next time you come.
Yeah. Rock Cup, I mean, they had containers already on the property.
I know. I worked on them because there were tires for our Sonoma race that we worked on, right?
Yeah.
And we all hedge our bets. We all prepay for hotel rooms and prepay for flights but like I said, I'm not asking to play a violin, but, like, when these races get canceled, you're all in it. You're all in a fair amount of way. And, most of us, by and large, in this sport are just small business people like everybody else in the sport, right? Yeah. Imagine if you were an air conditioning guy and you were supposed to put, 25 air conditioners on top of an apartment complex, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, no, we're not building that this year. And you already had the stuff, like, shipping
sitting
to
in
the
your
place,
warehouse.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's the same thing. You're like, shit, I got $100,000 with air conditioner sitting here. What am I going to do? That's right. So it's the same. It's the same that we all deal with, and we're all part of this community together. We all need each other to survive, and I get nostalgic, but I mean, I think that it made me so appreciative of this year that, as tough as it was, people really banded together and found a way to suck it up and to keep racing. And I mean, I know there's plenty of people out there that financially probably shouldn't have raced this year, that still did because they love it. And there's those of us that, took risks that we probably shouldn't have, but we did because we love it. I mean, look at what Rock Cup USA did at Rio last weekend, 2 weekends ago. I mean, man, they pardon me, but they put their balls on the line.
Yeah.
And they got it done. And regardless of all the shade that's being thrown from other sides or whatever, but man, Garrett got all the right permits and got all the right stuff and got everything signed off. But it was touch and go till literally 3 days before the event. But man, he got it done, and it was all legal and all signed off, and every I was dotted and every T was crossed. But man, there was a lot of money in the line. But if we would not have had that race, there would have been a lot of race teams in our sport that would have gone out of business because they couldn't pay their mortgages in November, December.
Yeah.
For
a lot of us, November, that is our winter. That's our winter budget.
Yeah. Yeah, you need it, right? You need that event because you get you build your 50 motors, or you got your 15 customers, or you sell your 10 chassis, or whatever it is.
It's just enough to get you through to that next first race. It's
right. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So when they put that on, I mean, it wasn't. You can throw the shade all you want. You can unpack it any kind of way you want to unpack it. But certainly that race was needed by our community. It was needed from not to be too spiritual, but it was needed to happen. And people needed it in their hearts for that race to happen. And people needed it. The businesses needed it from their bank accounts for it to happen. Otherwise, I would think 20 to 25% of the teams in our sport would have gone out of business if that race did not happen in Vegas 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know what the percentage would have been, but it definitely would have been a hit. And it kind of, I mean, when I saw you down there, and I made the comment to you, I go, man, you guys pulled it off. And you said two things. You said, one, this is not my deal. I'm just here hanging out. And two, don't say that yet.
Yeah.
And I think you said, let's get through Sunday. And I said, wait, why don't we just get through qualifying? But
yeah, no doubt,
the atmosphere down there was incredible. I mean, there had been people I haven't seen in a couple of years. It's like, man, it's great to see those people. I even said it on my podcast last week. The only downside to that whole event had nothing to do with Rock Cup USA or Vortex. It was all, either on the strip or the hotel where you couldn't hang out at the blackjack tables because of COVID restrictions. Right. But as far as being at the track, we had to wear face masks. We had to pull our gas tanks off the go-karts. That was the impact. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. And, shout out to the fuel barn guys. Cause I mean, just dealing with racers in general, they're not going to listen. They're going to do their own thing. Those guys, they probably should have been dropping F-bombs and telling people to F off left and right. And they kept their cool, and they tried to manage everything the best they could. And I don't know how many times they had to say the same thing over and over every day for every class, for every mechanic.
For sure.
But it was great. I mean, they did a great job down there. And I mean, and you're a part of that. I mean, it's you brought in the rock stuff for the West Coast, so you are a part of that. I'm an emotional support vehicle, right? So all the credit for sure goes to Garrett Potter and his staff, and and his two main folks that work for him, Ursula and Robbie. I mean, trust me, I know a lot of you that may listen to this, or if any of you listen to this, try to get a hold of Garrett
on and don't hear from him for a while because he's just overwhelmed. The amount of emails and texts and phone calls he gets on a daily basis is in the freaking thousands. It is ridiculous how many messages that guy gets sent or called every day. And I tell you, I probably talk to Garrett more than anybody but Ursula and Robbie. I'm probably third in line. If something's going on, it's either Ursula, Robbie, and then I'm the secondary level. So I probably talk to Garrett 3 to 4 days a week. And I know how many sleepless nights that man had trying to put this thing all together. That being said, yeah, I mean, my business is not, I don't really run a team anymore. I mean, I used to do that, but now that my business is the promotion and distribution of tires and distribution of parts for the West Coast, right? I still have my 3 or 4 Masters guys that have been with me for years and years. And when they feel like racing, we go racing. When they don't, they don't. And just none of them, for whatever circumstances, couldn't make it this time. But there was no way I was missing this event.
Yeah.
I pulled my trailer out there. I sold a few tires. I sold a few parts. I went to Costco and loaded up the bar. And I played music and had people come over whenever you wanted. If you were a mechanic and you wanted to get away from your driver, come grab a soda, come grab a water, come grab a shot of Jameson for all I care.
No tequila, though. No tequila.
No. Tequila makes me fight. We've talked about this.
Thank you, Josh Huff, for the margarita. It was delicious.
Josh Huff did supply the margaritas, right? And then a couple nights we had almost Garrett's whole race staff at our trailer. I provided them with a little after hours, end of the day.
Wind down.
A wind down, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So for sure, we were there. We had a good time. But the credit, I mean, Garrett and his staff, Ursula and Robbie and everybody else that worked for him. Oh my God, man. I mean, they put it on the line, so many sleepless nights, and they got it done. So I'm so proud of them. I couldn't be happier for them. And I hope that people see the sacrifice and the work they put in. I mean, we all want to be nostalgic, right? We all look at Facebook this week and, I see everybody's nostalgia posts like, oh my God.
We should be at another event.
We should be here. We should be there. Dude, you were at that. We had one. We had one 2 weeks ago. If you weren't there, you freaking missed out. That's your problem, right?
That was actually that was my post.
Maybe, you missed out because it used to be called X and it used to be called, and you missed, you know what? Somebody did put it out there. Somebody did put their balls in the line and put the event out there. So you should have gone. So, right? Yeah. If you want to be nostalgic, like it was your ex-girlfriend from high school and she used to maybe kiss you and now she doesn't, guess what? She doesn't kiss you anymore. You know what? She never loved you anyway. She was just happy to have you take her out to dinner. But at this point, there's another guy that put something on or another group that put something on, and they did it for the community and they got it done.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Garrett said at the Rock Sonoma event. It was he just really felt he had to pull that event off for the industry. And he goes, I don't care about myself. It's for the industry. We need that event in the middle of the winter to get us through as an industry.
Mm.
It was just, and they pulled it off. And honestly, I was sitting there a week before Las Vegas. If I got the phone call that the event was canceled, it's not like I would have been shocked.
I think a lot of people felt like that. I think a lot of people felt like that.
Because it just all year long. I live in California. We just got bumped back another tier or whatever that means, because somebody coughed and the numbers change. I don't know. But we got bumped back another tier, and it's like we keep getting these restrictions. So if you're in California, it's like you're walking on eggshells anyway, because you can't even take your family to the local restaurant. And you're asking people to pack a trailer and go to a different state and go to Vegas. Like, I can understand some of those people being on the fence. But I'll tell you what, when we were in Vegas and I'm seeing these people I haven't seen in some of them a few years, like, this is great. I mean, it was warming. It was just a warming experience.
Well, Garrett will never say this, but I'll say it. In addition to the external forces that were working against him, meaning the gaming commission, the health department, the state of Nevada, right? The people that he had to get all the permits from, right? And trust me when I say remember that the Rio was a Caesars property. He had every lawyer that Caesars has on staff working for him, right? And working for us, really, because we're the ones that reap the benefit of it.
Yeah.
It's hard enough when you have external forces that you have to fight against, but when you have internal forces within your own sport that are, they call them Karens. I don't know, what do you want to call them? Maybe call them Scarens. Maybe, I don't know. But people within the sport that are now calling people and throwing shade on the event and, I won't say writing letters, but writing emails to people in power, questioning the event. But people within our own sport, maybe they're a competing entity, I don't know. But all I know is it's pretty sad when that happens, when the whole sport needed this event and businesses in the sport needed this event, that somebody that you also pay money to is trying to sabotage an event that you have to go make a living at is pretty pathetic. And Garrett will never say it, but I'm in a position that I can. And I'll never call them out by name because, they have a lot of lawyers, but it's pathetic.
Yeah. But if you were in Vegas for the Rock Cup stuff, you never would have known any of that was going on.
Of course not. It's not the customer. It's not the customer.
The racing, there was good racing action. The classes.
It's great racing. It was great racing.
What do you know? And Garrett never told me the final entry count, but I was it 308, 310 or something?
Yeah, so I heard it was 308. I never really had it, but so in 19 it was 318, and last year it was this year it was 308. But if you take away the fact that there were only 19 Canadians at this event instead of 80, I think, which were at the year before, and there were 0 Europeans, which there were some at the year before, and there were, only a few South Americans, which there were many of the year before. If you added in the out-of-towners, meaning out of the country people that were there the year before compared to this year, that event would have had over 400.
Yeah.
And we could woulda, coulda, shoulda. It is what it is. But the fact that even it basically got to its 19 number is incredible.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
To have, to basically sell out, have 50 carts in that senior shifter class and in a 100cc senior class. Right now the 125 tag program all across the country is suffering a little bit. And maybe, the rock program we need to do a little more work on the cadet side. But if you get the 125, in the 3 classes and the cadets bumped up, all of a sudden that event is over 400. In the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And,
but we've talked about this in the past where on the tag side, there was no reason for people to switch from their other product to a Vortex on the tag side.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the shifter success at Vortex, it's exploded. Actually, that's a great segue into one of the questions I got. So Steve Peugeot out of Northern NorCal here, he phrased it for Rock the Rio, but the limited shifter class.
Right.
Do you have any plans of adding limited shifter, not for the Rio because that's not your deal, but for CRC or Challenge?
I haven't really put it to much thought for Challenge. CRC maybe, but there has to be a guarantee. So I'll bet for those of you that don't know what Jason's talking about, the limited shifter is basically taking a rock shifter and restricting it at the exhaust end to make it the speed a little faster than an 80, but not quite as the rock shifter. What the drivers say is it takes a bit of the violence out of it. Is that fair to say, Jason?
Yes.
So it's a great shifter, 6-speed experience, 125. but it takes, a lot of the violence out of it, especially for some of the drivers that are older. I mean, look, I turned 50 a month and a half, 2 months ago. So, I get it. The challenge is always, are those customers going to travel? Right.
Yeah.
It's not about adding the class. Right. And it's hard to add a class, trust me, because now it's 10% more of your day. Right. If you run 10 classes already, now you're asking for an 11th class. Right. So now you have to dig out another hour of the day or another 48 minutes, you know what I mean? Which just cuts back on everybody else's experience. So as a promoter, you look at what's the value of that time slot. I need to have X amount of go-karts on the track for every X amount of minutes to make sense, right? We all want it. We all want entries. And that's always the balance to the class. Oh, well, if we just add entries, these guys will show up. It's not always the case. The Limited is an amazing local level class, maybe regional level class. I'm just not sure that you could get those folks to travel. If all of a sudden you had 15 guys that say, and there's my challenge, Andy, we're coming to all 3 challenge races. I know a challenge race is $1,000. Here's my $3,000. Here's 15 of us. We're all writing right now. Make us a class. Hell yeah. But understand, I've been doing this. I've been in the sport since the early 80s. I've been a promoter for 15 years. I can count, well, I probably can't count, meaning how many times people said, if you just did this, we would come. Because I've done it 3 or 4 or 5 times, and every time I did what people said, if I did it, they would come. They never came.
So
and
Steve,
I'm not talking garbage on.
Yeah,
and I'm
so
not talking
Steve,
garbage
you
on
need,
Steve.
you need to
Trust me.
pre-enter 15 of your guys for Andy.
Yeah, I'm not talking garbage on Steve. I'm just telling you how many times people said, if you just went to this tire, if you just went to this fuel, if you just changed the weight to X, if you just did this, and probably 3, 4, 5 times over the past 15 years, on some level, I made an adjustment for the 2 or 3 or 4 guys that said that. In the end, those guys never showed up anyway.
Yeah. We saw that with a different series with the ICC/KZ program on the internet and on Facebook with all of our, keyboard carters. We need KZ. So that other series added KZ. And they got 3 or 4 at the first race and 1 or 2 thereafter. And it's, you're exactly right. You guys put your necks out there because you hear people want it, and then the entries don't show up. So, so when I say Steve,
and then you hear from the keyboard warriors, oh, you never do anything. You don't listen to anybody. No, we try, but in the end, we're gonna make our choices what's best for our businesses and live and die by them, right? I mean, it's not like me or Steve or Tom or anybody else says, damn, if I could just keep 25 people home and not come to my races, that would be best. No, we want those people to show up, but it can't be at the expense of the other 140 that are there.
Yeah. So Steve Peugeot, there's your answer. You need a pre-enter with 15 of your buddies, and Andy will add the class.
There you go, buddy. See that? See how easy that was?
That's how it works. So do you have tentative dates that you can throw out there for CRC?
I do. I actually released them to sponsors. And I'll preface this by saying that I do know that some of these or several of these do conflict with KPX, and Austin Elliott from Speed Sense sent a text today to both me and Chris Rossi, and Chris is gonna work hard to try to avoid some of these conflicts. I mean, for our program, it's hard because I deal with a different customer base than say KPX does, because I have to deal with teams that go to all the Southern California stuff, or Pro Kart, or Pro Tour, or USPKS, or yada yada yada, right? So it's a balance. I mean, the scheduling thing is a nightmare, right? If we just had 8 weekends every month, it would be great, but that's not how the calendar works, right?
If there was only a calendar out there that had all the races.
Yeah, exactly, right? We just can't. It's impossible. So we're opening May 7th and 8th at Buttonwillow, which is a Friday, Saturday. Normally our program is Saturday, Sunday, but May 9th is Mother's Day. So I figure it's early enough in May that if folks can take, a Friday off, come up or come down to Buttonwillow, we can do Friday. In the CRC format is we practice and then we qualify that afternoon, and then we race on the next day and we go home, for the most part. There's one variation from that this year. So that's May 7th, 8th. And then I have seen the Sonoma proposed schedule, so I'm risking speaking out of turn here because I know the contract isn't completely signed yet. But I also know that Sonoma dictates many of the dates because, once again, not throwing shade on a club track, but understand putting races on at a place like Sonoma or Cal Speed or Miller, you have to work around what they have going on their facility, right? So you get shoehorned in, right? So my second weekend is a combined event with Sonoma again. Steve likes those combined events, and I do too. So that would be the June 11, 12, I believe is the. Let's see, I got to look at a calendar. It's 10, 11, or 11, 12. No, it's June 12, 13. Sorry, June 12, 13 with Sonoma.
June 12th and 13th. Okay.
Yeah. Then we go to July. So July is going to be an interesting one. So, I put out a survey this year, and man, I was happily surprised that I think over 100 drivers. Now I sent it to all the drivers that have been in the Challenge program and CRC over the past several years, right? But to get over 100 drivers to give us opinions is pretty rare, because go-karters don't like to, in general, people just don't like to chime in on surveys, right? It's a pain in the ass.
No, you just have to do something on social media, and then it'll blow up.
Right, exactly, right, or call it. So we're actually going to take a trip. We're gonna extend, even though it's called the California Rock Championship. We're gonna extend. We're gonna go to Pat's Acres in July. And
really?
For those of you who don't know Pat's Acres is a classic track. It hosted the 1995 ICAF Grand Nationals, which still to this day holds the record. It had like 650 entries. Now, granted, ICAF back then, every driver raced 3 or 4 classes, so it was still 170 drivers. But 650 something entries. Scott, to put it in perspective, 1995, Scott Speed won the Junior 1 Comer class on a Track Magic.
That was I think that was the very first kart race I ever watched.
Awesome.
And I just, beautiful track, beautiful facility.
Dude, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Awesome.
It's,
excuse my language.
Just south of, that's okay. I love it. So it's just south of Portland. It's in the middle of the trees. It's surrounded by a river on 3 sides. You can camp there. It's the middle of the summer, in July. It's light till almost 10 o'clock at night in Portland. I mean, it's going to be amazing. It's
going to be. Oh, I'm like, you don't just know how big the smile is on my face right now.
Good.
I just,
RPG.
I love that place.
So I'm taking a shot, and I'm taking a shot because karters need to come to these places that have supported us for years and are classic tracks. So please, this is a big financial outlay to go all the way up to Portland, and I know it's going to be for you, for Californians, Southern Californians. I know it's, a 15-hour drive or whatever it is. For Northern Californians, I know it's a 8-hour drive. But man, this is going to be epic, and that event is going to be like a challenge format. So I'm going to do a Friday practice and a complete Saturday race day and a complete Sunday race day. That way, you're traveling all the way. You can get double the race weekend out of your, you get double value.
Yeah. Now, what weekend is that?
So July 23rd through 25th.
23rd through the 25th. know how big of a smile I have. I mean, I was supposed to go up there in September for the Track Magic Rally.
Mm.
And
well, LaPointe lives 10 minutes from there, so maybe he'll put something together with Gary, and we'll do something there too. But
yeah, and he was the one kind of getting everything organized for the Track Magic group, and I had it on my calendar for a vacation, and fucking fires. Excuse my language, but a week before they had to make the decision, which was the right decision, to not have this event, and I was kind of like just bummed out. It's like, man, we're going to go up there with the Track Magic group and have a great time. And it's Pat's Acres. I was going to go visit some family in the area. But they had the same deal. They had fires. And this brings a huge smile to my face.
Well, I know that, the Egger family's been a huge supporter of karting for so long. And, Maddie Egger, Chris Egger was a race director for me for a long time. And, Maddie Egger still works for me as a race secretary, and I see Dalton and Brady. I mean, Brady and Chris's youngest son and my son went to college together for a year, and Cam Egger worked for me for a little bit, and the whole family's so great. Chris wants to do like an endurance or a fun kart thing with his rental karts on Friday night with the mechanics. I mean, we're gonna do something really cool because, like I said, it's light out till almost 10 o'clock there on Friday night. One practice at 5 o'clock, and we'll have a good time. We'll throw some barbecues or something. Oh my God! In the middle of, like I said, surrounded on three sides by water and the trees, and you're just pitting the paddock is just it's a field. I mean, you're not gonna have your final floor down and everything. It's not gonna be perfect, but man, it's gonna be such a great event. So I mean, if you don't come to any CRC, you better come to that CRC, because that is the one that's gonna put a smile on your face like no other.
And that's you said the 23rd through the 25th?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's kind of in that dead spot. It's kind of between, USPKS, I think, is at Road America in early July, and then we got national programs spend all of August in Newcastle, and we do 3 weekends in a row and call it a national tour. But yeah, so and then we'll come back in August, and we'll do another combined weekend with Steve at Rock Sonoma, the 21st and 22nd of August. And
21st
then
and 22nd, okay.
Yep. And then I'm planning to end it all in September, late September, 25th, 26th. So 5 weekends: May, June, July, August, September. One being a double weekend, so basically a 6-race program over 5 weekends. Five weekends count, or excuse me, 5 races count. So
give me 1 second on so we got August, and then September was what?
25th, 26th.
25th and 26th. I'm actually putting this on my calendar as we talk. I'll go back in and fill in all the important details, but
for sure.
You lost me at Pat's Acres. We could have just ended right there.
I know you were like a puddle, a little puddle of something.
Like I said, it was one of the first kart races I ever watched. I happened to be in Oregon helping my uncle build houses that summer, and I had a Track Magic on order, but
really,
I never watched kart racing. I went to a school at Blue Max, and Mike DeRosier was running it, and Joey Hand was out there, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy a go-kart. I emptied my savings account, and a couple months later, I was in Oregon working, and we went to the race because it was there by chance. It's like, yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, but see, so there you go,
man.
So yeah. I know you'll be there.
I don't think I'm going to make it.
yeah. Right.
So the September date, we have September 25th and 26th, and where is that?
Haven't worked it out yet, but I will soon.
So that's the track called TBA, to be announced.
TBA International Raceway.
Yeah. So did you do? You had 4 races last year for the CRC, so now you have 5.
6 finals on 5 weekends. Yeah, and that was the overwhelming part of our once again, here we go, listening to people, right? And this is where may bite me in the ass and may pay dividends, right? Well, I talked about people saying, if you just did this, we would show up, right? So I looked at our series results and our survey results, and overwhelmingly, people wanted, a longer, a bigger weekend, more races. So we'll see.
And isn't that the fine balance between how much the racers want and overdoing it? It's almost like the NASCAR stuff. I mean, you get to that point of oversaturation. How do you manage that as a race promoter?
It's hard. I mean, you want to make sure that there's enough racing for folks, but you also want to make sure that you don't oversaturate them, like you said. Because at some point, I've talked to some clubs. I mean, there's a couple of clubs out here on the West Coast that, they run every 2 weekends. It's like, man, you realize you just burn your people out. And it's not even the money aspect. It's just the time. It's just the going to the track every other weekend at your club. And there still has to be time to take a vacation with the family, or take a time to hang out with your wife and kids, or, or if your kids aren't into kart, if you're the one that's into karting, well, your kid's got to have a soccer game you got to go to. Or if your kids are into karting, they probably still have a soccer game to go to. So, clubs, there's a break even, right? There's a point of no return where it's like, oh man, is this too many? Is this not enough? You want to give them enough that they're not going out and looking for more to do, but you don't want to give them too much that they're overwhelmed and they want to, not show up to the last two. So, I mean, it's a moving target. Every year is so different. Every year is very, very different.
Yeah, when I worked at SwedeTech, one of my customers made the comment one time about the big national race events, and I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but he said, "I haven't even paid off my last credit card bill, and yet I had to register again for another event."
Right.
And I kind of sat back and I didn't really think about it, and I asked, I was like, "Wait, is that really a planning side of it?" And I started asking other people after he said that. And there's a lot of people out there that, yeah, it's not from paycheck to paycheck, but it's the credit card statement. They want to get paid off before they, ring it back up and explain that one to the wife. And
people wonder why promoters open their entry so early, and that's the exact reason. So
yeah, yeah, it gave me a whole different perspective.
For sure. I opened my challenge, like on challenge, I open up the first week in December, sometime before December 10th. Okay. So if you figure everybody's credit cards come through December 10th or whatever. Well, our first race is until January 22nd.
Yeah.
Should I really? Why do I need to really open it? Because it gives people time to put it on and then eventually pay it, because the next two rounds, being a month apart, happen fast. Like, I opened my, Cal Speed. We're done at Cal Speed the night of the 24th. I opened registration for Phoenix on the 26th, and it's closed by the 15th because I'm in Phoenix by the 22nd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just bam, 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 bam. We know it hits hard.
And that's how perspective is. Sometimes, as for someone like myself, I don't actively race national stuff. I go to them. Right. I don't race. I'm not paying the bill. And it's like, wow, that's a whole different side of it that honestly just went right over my head.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, and it's just about having those balls in the air and balancing. It's no different than, every promoter hears that the track should be closed, for a month before we go there, and there should be no practice, and all these mean, angry teams come in, and it's like, well, it's a balance, because we want every entry we can get, right? So we want every guy in a pickup truck and his father that can show up on Thursday night, be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and go home. we also want every team that brings 15 entries that can move in a month early and be there all week.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, how do we balance that without pissing everybody off, but still, I mean, nobody's going to be 100% happy, but we got to find a balance, right? And all of us walk that line. All of us get accused of being greedy or whatever we are, all the names that are used, but we're just trying to walk that line to keep as many people in the paddock happy as we can.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You lost me 15 minutes ago with Pat's Acres.
I know you're still giggling about Pat's, aren't you? Well, how about that? So let me tell you this. One thing I am excited about this year. So I'm adding another member to our staff. So for years it was Taylor Jocelyn and Mark Michione are my basically. I mean, Taylor's the race director, but in all reality, they're kind of co-race directors. They kind of rule the roost on the track. Mark. Taylor has been assistant race director at the national road tax events at the national, for years and years and years. He's been around. He was a junior dad, sometimes the worst junior dad. I always tease him. I mean, his son, Cameron Jocelyn, was a spot away from going to the road tax worlds a couple different times, right? He's now a tuner when he takes a break from his real job. So, Taylor and the Jocelyn family, but Taylor for sure has been around the block 1,000 times. And Mark for sure was also a junior dad. His daughter Brianna raced under my tent for years and years and years, many national events. And as we all know, our karting officials aren't getting any younger. I mean, look, it's a terrible job, right? Nobody wants to stand out there all day for $250 and get yelled at by every crazy dad in the book, but they do it. They do it because they absolutely love the sport. They do it because they bleed it and they believe in it. And so last year, 2 years ago, I added Casey Cook as my flag man, and Casey Cook is a racer, mid-20s, worked at Cal Speed, accomplished racer, teaches at the Porsche Experience, right? So now my staff got a little younger. And then this past year, I added Tyler Brooks, who Tyler's like 30, but raced Masters when he was 13 years old because he was 6'8", but a national level racer, a guy that I myself have gone, side pod to side pod with many times. I respect immensely what he's done on track and what he knows about our sport. Grew up in our sport, married. His wife comes from a karting family. Like they bleed it, even though he doesn't race anymore. So I added him to my staff. This year for the spring or for challenge, I've added one more, trying to keep making it younger and younger. I'm adding Callum Smith to our group. Callum.
You stole Callum from NorCal?
Callum's we're gonna start getting Callum some. I won't say we're gonna teach him, but we're gonna teach him. We're gonna train him. He's gonna get some good experience underneath Mark and Taylor on national level procedures and everything. And I think when he goes back to NorCal for the summer, I think he's gonna do an amazing job for the community up there. But yeah, I'm happy to bring on new, young talent that's relevant, that knows the sport from the driver's seat and understands, what a dirty move is, what an innocent move is, how that was really intended when it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you give them the flavor of what the rules read, and if they make their calls based on what the letter of the rule says, then it's fine. And I'm excited. I think Callum is going to add a lot to our staff. I think I've asked if John, his wife, can come work with us as well in an admin duty. So maybe we get both husband and wife out there. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I like being able to add new people to our staff and make our staff better. And really, for all the old guys, make it younger too.
No, that's great. And then, for those that don't know who Callum is, I mean, he kind of shot through karting pretty quickly and had some really good success at the national level. And he's always been very analytical. So that's really nice to see that he's going to be helping you guys out and that he's sticking around for another year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
He wants to get
fantastic.
more involved. I think, he's a lifer. I think he's a lifer in the sport. I know I don't want to speak out of turn. I know that he has a couple of personal health issues that maybe keeps him out of the seat as much as he wants to be in there. I'm sorry, Callum, if I spoke out of turn, but in the end, he loves our sport and he wants to be involved, and this gives him an opportunity to do that. And I am more than happy to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, you bring that up. I don't know if it's too far out of turn, but Scott Speed had the same thing, and I know Callum looked up to Scott because Scott Speed had the same issue.
Right.
Which, I mean, you know the Speed, so they really
Yep.
struggled, and he made an amazing a career out of something that probably for a lot of people is debilitating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one more question for you that just came through on the chat. You had made the comment earlier. This comes from Greg Welch out of Colorado. You made a comment about improving on the micro and the mini classes. So he asked, does Rock have any plans to improve that package? It needs a new carburetor. And there's a new carburetor available, isn't there?
I think most of the new carburetor part is in aesthetics. I don't think it's the way that the carburetor works or functions. It's just in the cap and other things. As far as the carburetor goes, I mean, I understand maybe that's been a complaint, but also understand that PHBG, I can't remember whatever it is, the 18 mil carburetor that it uses. That is the homologated carburetor for all 60cc engines in Europe.
Got it. For all
that, right?
60
You know
engines.
That, right?
I
all
did not
60.
know that, no.
All 60. If you look under the Italian regulations, that's what they use in Europe for all the 60s. So I understand it may not be as easy as a needle carburetor, but in the end, it's the tool that you're given, and it is what it is. And if racers want to move on or to go to any of these races, I mean, the Rotex, wow, I took a step back there. The Rock Super Final is the biggest cadet race in the world. I mean, aside from this year, which they still had 100, I think. In most years, they have about 150 or 160 drivers. It is the most competitive cadet race in the world, and they use that carburetor. I mean, that carburetor is the carburetor they use in Europe. So, no, there's no.
So that's the carburetor. That's the carburetor we're using.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. It can't all be easy, man. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of a challenge. You can't just roll them out there and let the 8-year-olds ride. You got to have a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
Greg, I'm disappointed from a guy who worked on a Rotex carburetor his whole karting life. To worry about this little mini Rock carburetor is a little disheartening.
That's great. Okay, well, actually, one more question from Austin Elliott. I'm probably going to paraphrase because I'm trying to understand what his text means. But he wants to know what the situation is with Swift versus Rock and KA versus VLR. I don't know if he's asking if it's going to be a combined class again or not.
I mean, at challenge, it's all Rock in the cadet classes, and the KA and VLR have both been legal in the 100cc classes, and I will keep that the same for at least 2021.
Okay.
In CRC, I will also keep the KA and the VLR the same, both legal in 2021. I am considering, even though I let the Swifts run this year in the two cadet classes, I am considering going to an all Rock program because that is the mandate from those above me. However, I am thinking of putting together one of my last crazy Andy specials that I did. I'm sure you saw a few of those this year, where if you register for all 3 challenge races and we make you a special price on a mini rock, then all of a sudden the guy gets a mini rock for, and I'm just making up numbers, but say you get it for, 40% off or something if you register for all 3 challenge races, and then you have a mini rock, which is, at that price is probably half the price of the mini Swift. So you'll have an engine you can race on the West Coast, because it's obviously the rock program is growing, and you're going to need one anyway within the next year, so you might as well get it now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you'll have more information on that as we get closer to the season.
Yep. Yeah, I'm working on those details now.
I mean Christmas is right around the corner. Come on, Andy.
Got that right. Even though we cannot see our families or more than 2 other households, but we will have a good time.
You just have the wrong last name. That's all.
No, I don't. You think that, but it's not. That's not the truth.
Oh, it's. I don't want to get into politics. I just get mad.
All right, perfect.
We're probably on the same side of it, but I just don't like the elitist having their own rules and doing what they want, while us peasants are under strict.
You got that right, buddy.
Under strict mandates and quarantines and advisories.
I have found nobody in karting to have a vastly different view than me. Maybe a few that do slightly different. Yeah, go ahead. That have a few, different points. But look, everybody wants what's best for their families and their country, right? So, we'll leave it at that. I mean, obviously, when times get tough, your circle gets really small, right? I mean, you can be when you're rolling and things are great and life is carefree, you can be pretty magnanimous about how big your circle is.
Yeah.
But when times get a little tough, right, your circle gets really small, and all of a sudden it's, your spouse, your kids, maybe mom and dad, but beyond that, I'm sorry, cousins, you're left out, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. Do you got time for one more question?
Sure. What do you got?
There's actually people listening. This is incredible.
Stop it.
I'm dead serious. Normally I say that to make myself feel better, and it's usually just my mom. But
right.
I mean, no, it's Austin Elliott and Greg Welch have questions, and Steve had the questions earlier. Kimberly Cameron's listening in. This is great. So let's see. Back to Austin. There is a new KA Junior header available. Will that be allowed? Or
I've never seen that. Obviously,
it's got to be bored out.
I don't know if you know this, Austin. yeah, of course, right. Austin, I don't know if you know this, but I am,
awesome.
In the role. Did you hear my wife?
Yeah, I did.
Apparently, my new name is Awesome.
Awesome.
In the role that I'm at, the IME importers refuse to sell me any product. Rock is a bit different. We don't care if you want to be an IME dealer and you want to be a rock dealer, as long as you meet the minimum requirements, you're welcome to do both. But the IME importers kind of play a little different game, and we won't sell you the product if you're not on our team, whatever the hell that means. So I've never seen the new IME header, so I can't comment on it. I'm not too concerned one way or the other. I think the VLR has proven itself to be a solid package, and I don't think there may be a need to change the header size in the class, because I think the VLR speaks for itself in that class. But I do follow the national rule set, so if Garrett makes a change, I will follow suit. But obviously, if we can't even look or touch or feel or test the product, then it's pretty much a no-go no matter what.
There you go, Austin. And then tires. Do you have any information on the new tire offering for 2021?
Oh, the Levanto, for sure. I mean, it's so funny. When the announcement first came out that Bridgestone was getting out of the karting tire market, I got phone calls from people that said, "Oh my God, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? What are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I going to do? That's the one thing that person ever complained about. That's the only thing you ever complained about was the tire and the separation issues that tire had. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do backflips. Like I can actually do a backflip, but okay, maybe a somersault in a
You
twist.
just reminded me of Chris Farley.
Yeah, I'm not Chris Farley, but thank you, Jason.
But he can do a backflip.
No, he can't because he's dead.
Well, okay, you're right. Too soon.
But the point is, right, the one complaint that any of us in my position ever heard about Rock was, man, if you just had a better tire. We love your engines. We love the way you run the races. Man, it is so much fun. You treat your customers so much better, yada, yada, yada. If you just, that tire, we just have that problem with that tire separation, right? Well, guess what? It's gone now. So I don't think there's any reason to freaking have a problem anymore, right? It's built around the LeConte that they ran in the European Championship this year. So I don't know much about it. I haven't seen one. I'm supposed to get my first batch after December 1st. I know there are containers on the water right now headed to Florida. So just depending on what happens with the holidays and everything else, depending on when they get them, and then add a week to when I can get them. But, I do have a $50,000 order basically standing with them. The minute they arrive, repackage it and ship it.
So it's not the same
we'll
LeConte that's over here already. It's a different product.
It's a new homologated tire that they ran for the European Championship. So
okay.
It's branded as Levanto. I don't know how similar. I don't know because I haven't had it in my hands, right?
Okay.
That being said, what's funny is I've heard the statements from others that were like, well, why don't you just go on what everybody else is on and go on the X brand and I'll go on Y brand? And it's like, well, that's great, but that would never fly. And then people say, oh, it's politics. I said, no, it's not it's not politics at all, because no factory in the world can say, well, we make X number of tires a year, and by the way, we're going to almost double that. Can you start building that next month? It's not possible. Think about your own business, right? If you can service, I'll go back to the air conditioning guy. If you can service, 500 air conditioners a month, and all of a sudden they said, okay, well, the other air conditioner guy is out of business. You have to service 1,000 air conditioners this month. Like, I can't do it. So that other factory that we all know about in Brazil couldn't take on the business that we would give them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And knowing what I know about the person at the very top of our program, he wants some measure of control. So it was a smarter choice for him to become a partner with LeConte and be able to expand their factory, which is very close to the OTK and Vortex factories, and have a product that is right there, very close to him, that is a proven product in the European market that we can rebadge and run as our own. And I think we'll be very, very happy about this tire.
That's probably the best answer you can give us until you have them in your hands.
So I have them in my hand, Oh, Austin Elliott's now texting me. Might touch on how the local racer can and start testing on the new tire if desired. Where do they get them? They can get them, Austin, and anybody listening, from any Rock and Levanto dealer as soon as I get them in my hands after December 1.
Oh, he just we must be CC'd. He just sent me
the
same thing. See, I told you people are listening.
I don't know. No, look. What I need Greg Welch to text me now. Kimberly Cameron text me. Who's texting me?
So now you're taking. Maybe we have to start co-hosting if you're taking questions
Yeah,
on your side.
yeah. Now I'm taking questions. First time, long time listener, first time caller. Hi, Jason.
No, that was a productive night. I mean, we talked about your 2021. We talked about past couple of years. We've highlighted that a few times already. I'm still geeking out about Pat's Acres.
You're still geeking out about Pat's, buddy. Pat's is going to be epic.
Yeah, I am. For those who don't know, it's just Andy already said it's a beautiful facility. The track is bitching to drive. If you've ever driven, it's almost a little bit similar to Buttonwillow, but not in the middle of BFE. It's like Buttonwillow in the middle of a campground. You're going through trees along a river. It's banked. It's just
Buttonwillow. You put it in terms of Buttonwillow?
As far as like the banking of the corners, how Buttonwillow when the cart's working and you just turn in and it just everything hooks up. And it flows.
I don't care about that. I care about the atmosphere. I'm thinking it's more like spa.
It's dusty and hot at Buttonwillow.
Through the Ardennes forest with a river and the trees. It's beautiful.
And then, hey, Jason LaPointe, if you're listening, I'm going to take you up on that Babica Hen gift card because about 20 minutes away from Pat's Acre is one of the best breakfast places in the country.
Like Jason LaPointe's listening.
No, probably not. Going back to Coda, what are the plans for California if it ends up shutting down again due to COVID?
That's a good question.
That's from Greg Welch. We're going to go to Colorado, Greg.
Luckily, Kathy, can you try that a little bit?
I was getting my jam on.
I know. She wants to hang out in Africa. Luckily, Charlie, Charlie from Tucson, I was, we didn't go to Tucson this year for a variety of reasons, but just because we wanted to, rekindle that relationship with PKRA and Calspe's always a must do. Sonoma's always a must do. So it kind of always only leaves us with one, Arizona opening on our schedule. And, Charlie missed us. He wasn't happy that Charlie, by the way, the owner of Tucson, Musselman Motor Circuit, Musselman Honda Circuit. But, he's always been a good friend of ours. He's always been good to our program. But this year we just had to leave it off. And he wasn't enthused about it, but he understood. Well, luckily he's always a great backup. That if California gets crazy, we can move some stuff around. So we're just gonna have to be fluid in how we schedule. Hopefully by Jan 1 we'll know if I have to get crazy with things, but I don't think I will. I mean, California's been fine for outdoor stuff once they kind of found a good medium ground. Just this week they decided to say, okay, there's a quote unquote curfew between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Well, it's not martial law. That just means bars have to close at 10 instead of 2. It just means that, you probably shouldn't be out partying, which, I didn't know that COVID knew what time 10 o'clock was, but that's, not my decision to make. But just understand that it's been pretty good about outdoor activities that I think will be plenty safe, and the Speedway, California Speedway, has plenty of good COVID restrictions in place with the temp gauges and everything else, and their COVID waivers and their restrictions. But I think we could work around it without any issue.
Very good. So let's just plan on not having COVID. That's my vote.
Yeah. COVID's going to be done. Luckily, what's Inauguration Day? Inauguration Day is January 19th, right? Tuesday. And
Sounds
my
about
race
right,
is on the 22nd. So on the 19th, the COVID will be gone anyway, so it's fine.
There you go.
My 16-year-old just looked at me. She goes, "Great logic, Dad."
Great logic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything you want to wrap up with?
Man, I think I've wrapped. We've wrapped for a long time. Holy cow, we just hit an hour and 59 minutes, and I think the first 10 minutes is you doing all your sound checks. But I think this is our new record that we're almost to an hour and 50 minutes.
I think so.
It's pretty incredible. I don't know if anybody wanted to hear my voice past the first 10 minutes, but they got 140 minutes past that. So congratulations, everybody. We broke a record.
Well, apparently they didn't want to hear me, so they just waited for you to come on, then started asking questions.
Thank you. Who else is on? Thank you, Greg Welch and Steve Peugeot and Austin Elliott and Kimberly Cameron. Is that the only? Is that the four? Is that the four people we heard?
That's in the actual chat rooms. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good job.
Yep. And my mom's texting me saying, "Hurry up! You're taking too long."
Yeah. No, that's typical.
But cool. I mean, I appreciate your. Appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you for the support of NorCal Carters again for 2021. And every time you come on, we just start talking like we're having a drink and it's karting. I really
we are. By the way, we are. I mean,
well, you are. I forgot to bring the bottle in here.
Oh, nice. In your sound stage at home.
That's right.
It's all good, man. I mean, my family rolls their eyes at me sometimes, but I live and breathe this stuff. I have for years and years, and hadn't. I last raced seriously in 2014, and I miss it, and I jumped in I think in 16 or 17 for a club race, and I actually ran the weekend before Rock the Rio. I'm gonna say this just to tease everybody. I actually raced the road race at Speed Vegas the weekend before Rock the Rio, and just for one of the three heat races because I got tired. And
you're supposed to claim mechanical problems, not that you got tired.
Actually, it was simply I was just uncomfortable in the kart after not being in a go-kart for so long and going 90 miles an hour. I was mentally uncomfortable, but because it's hard work. I mean, to do this at the right level, it's a lot of work, right? Which I appreciate. But
yeah,
I love it. I still have a personal chassis that sits on a shelf in my shop that I never drive. It's still a passion of mine. I love it with all my heart, and I certainly hope that I can continue to give as much to the sport as I get back from it because man, it's a blessing that I can do what I love to do and not have to punch a clock and not have to sit in a cubicle and provide the service I provide and be able to earn a living doing it and provide for my family. So thank you to everyone listening, and thank you to the Carters that support our programs, because I really appreciate you giving me the life that I prefer to lead.
Yeah, that's amen to that. I know. Because I mean, it's a great sport from a family side. I mean, there's some great relationships that get built in this sport.
And with that, we're going to end.
Perfect. Next time we'll catch up with you on your experience at Speed Vegas.
Perfect.
All right, Andy. Thank you.
You bet. And remember, I think I told you, I'm doing another one of these with, you better get this out, because I'm doing one of these with Howden Cole next week, and with Mike Smith and Derek Esquivel from Cal Speed the week after. So you're the first ones. You better get it out there.
All right. We were live. I can't get any more out there than that.
All right. Perfect.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.